Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at our workshop on Healthy Online Civic Engagement. This was a part of SCSU's Wellness Week called Refresh, where we tried to promote healthy online participation during the COVID-19 pandemic. At our workshop, we discussed activism burnout, staying engaged in your community, and how to navigate different levels of Canadian government. So unfortunately, we couldn't share our breakout sessions with all of you, but we hope you benefited from listening to our keynote speakers and our facilitators during the workshop.
We'd like to sincerely thank you all for attending live and virtually through YouTube. We'd also like to sincerely thank Rimsha for leading this phenomenal workshop and our facilitators, Amreen, Hussein, Zach, Zubair, Dalraj, and Gavin. We would also like to thank Lulu and SCSU for putting together our Wellness Week, and also, last but not least, the MPP for Scarborough-Southwest, Doly Begum. For more information on PSSA and our workshop, you can check out our website, which will be linked down below. If you want to learn more about PSSA, you can check out our Twitter and our Instagram, which will be up here. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see more of what PSSA can do, comment it down below. Sure. So this is just a brief overview of our agenda. We're going to start off with land acknowledgement, and we're going to talk a little bit about our privacy statement. As we mentioned, we are recording half of this. And then we have, we're very honored to have a very special guest give a keynote. We have a member of provincial parliament here, so I'm really excited for that. And then we're going to break out into sessions. We'll talk a little bit about those topics later on, and then we'll end off with a Kahoot. Okay, go ahead, Rimsha.
Okay. Thank you. So as you guys can see on your screen, there is a land acknowledgement. However, I won't be reading it because an elder once told me that land acknowledgements don't serve any purpose if we're not actively working towards reconciliation. So I will let you guys read it, but at the same time, I would encourage all of you guys to take a few seconds to talk about what think about what Turtle Island has given to you and what you're grateful for. So if you would like to share that in the chat, feel free to do so. I will also say a few things in the chat about what I'm thankful for. But yeah, I won't be saying the land acknowledgement, but I encourage all of you to read it for the next couple of seconds. Okay, thank you, everyone. So you guys can keep the chat going. We'll also be reading the chat as well. So Farah, if you could move on to the next slide. Yep. So I know all of you guys, when you guys registered, you also received a copy of the statement. But just to go over it really quickly, our beginning session will be recorded, but not our breakout session. So please feel free to say anything you wish. We are trying to create a safe space. So we encourage that everyone practices safe networking and refrain from saying anything inappropriate, demeaning, or disrespectful, or we will remove you ourselves. In addition to that, any information that you will share with us today will not be released without your consent, and all your information will be protected, such as your name and email.
Okay, so I will talk a little bit about the Political Science Students Association. First, I would like to thank everyone for attending and taking the time out of your day to be here with us. And I would also like to thank Rimsha and all of the facilitators for all the hard work that went into bringing us this workshop today. So to tell you a little bit about PSSA, We are the Departmental Students Association directly affiliated with the Political Science Department at UTSC. And we serve to act as a liaison between the student body and the department. And we also host a variety of different events, such as networking sessions and study sessions. And I'd also like to just say that given the current climate, I don't anticipate any changes to the events that we plan on hosting, besides the fact that they'll all be online. But that being said, we're also really excited to bring a whole bunch of different ideas together. So one of the things that we're doing is bringing back our mentorship event. It'll all be virtual, and basically this mentorship event connects upper year and lower year students together to provide some insight on academics, so types of courses to take, but also navigating the workforce, resume, cover letters, all that good stuff. And also we're really excited to expand our publications department, so looking out for our newsletters and also different ways to get published in our journal. I've gone ahead and put our social medias. That's a really great way to know what we're up to and figure out different ways to get involved. And I will pass on to Waleed to talk about another thing that we're really excited to bring this year.
Cool. So just taking on to what Farah was mentioning, another event that we have been hosting has been a town hall series. We are doing this in collaboration with the GCSA, and this has been a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. More specifically, we've been looking at the government's response to the pandemic. So early on, we've noticed that the government has had multiple different benefits out there that can be kind of confusing for a lot of people because there's just so many different ones that are available. So we have taken the opportunity to bring that information and politicians to you, the students, and make them more accessible to answer any questions that students might have around the different programs and benefits that are available in response to the ongoing pandemic. As the province and the country moves into a new phase of reopening, we will also be moving into a new phase for our town hall series. So we're looking at continuing this town hall series, but we're looking to expand it a little bit more. So one thing we've created, our wonderful marketing director, Jordan, has created a YouTube channel for PSSA where we have been posting our town hall series on there. So if you've missed any and want to check it out, feel free to just head to our YouTube channel, PSSA UTSC. And this was in an effort to expand our reach and our impact further to all students and not just the students at UTSA who have just been at those town hall series. In addition to that, we're looking at expanding our town hall series, like I mentioned earlier, to including more politicians, staffers, and experts within the field to hear more about their information and open up the topic a bit more from just COVID-19 and the COVID-19 response. As I mentioned, we are moving into a new phase of reopening. So we are also going to change and adapt as we go through. So I would encourage you all to check out our YouTube page. Keep your eye open as we are going to have a lot of new and wonderful content coming your way. If there's anything that you specifically want us to touch about or have a question about something or a specific person you want on the YouTube channel, feel free to just send me a message or the PSSA various social media accounts, and we will be happy to try and work that out and make that work. Other than that, that's it for me. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to Farah.
So we would actually like to call Lulu to tell us a little bit about SCSU and about Refresh.
Hi everyone, my name is Lubaba or Lulu. Feel free to call me either. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the Vice President of Academic and University Affairs for the Scarborough Campus Students Union for this academic year. SCSU basically democratically unites, represents, and provides avenues for the diverse 14,000 undergraduate students that we do have at UTSC. So we're committed to providing effective advocacy, enriching the university experience, as well as addressing student needs and interests with different cost-saving services. As I mentioned, we basically do all of this throughout different events, campaigns, and services. So these include events like Refresh that basically help students stay engaged within the UTSC community. So This workshop is our first event of Refresh as part of a week-long series of workshops that basically strive to help students learn new skills as well as cope with the added pressures that come with the COVID climate. Further, SCSU organizes a lot of different campaigns that advocate for your needs as students, such as tuition freeze campaigns and different initiatives to address the systemic anti-Blackness that's very present within our educational system. Lastly, we also provide services to support students. So particularly during COVID, one of our biggest services that we support students through is our food share programs, as well as we're currently working on a laptop exchange program to make a lot of remote learning more accessible for students. So throughout the year, we also provide students with lots of different opportunities to get involved in our different initiatives, whether that be as part of working at the SCSU office or as part of a campaign or any other platform. We love to make sure that students have equal opportunities to be able to get involved in the UTSC community. So we do usually post these on our Instagram if you do want to follow us at SCSU U of T for those details. We do update those when opportunities arise. Another individual that strives to provide a lot of different opportunities for young leaders in the Scarborough community is also here with us today. So the MPP for Scarborough-Southwest, Doly Begum, is an incredible leader in the Scarborough community, and she's here with us today to share a few words about how she's been navigating her work in the COVID climate and what that sort of means in terms of organizing and activism and all of that comes with it. So if Doly wants to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. I always forget that you have to go through this mute button thing all the time. So hi, thank you so much for the intro, Lulu. I didn't know that people call you Lulu, so now I do, and that's what I'm going to call you. And I was listening in to everyone else as you're talking about your day and introducing, talking about the organization. So I just wanted to say, that's amazing. It's incredible to see the work that you're all doing. A huge thank you to the Students Union, to the Political Science Students Union for inviting me here today, to both of you, as well as for the work that you're doing. I think it was Gavin who was saying that he's been working with community leaders and health networks to provide, PPEs. There's PPE to a lot of different places that need it most. So it's really incredible to see the work that you all have been doing, and I'm really grateful to be here and be a part of this. It's been really interesting, and the past few months I think has completely changed the way we view democracy and the pillars of democracy. So I'm the MPP for Scarborough-Southwest, which is sort of the you can say the beginning of Scarborough as we head east, or it's sort of the end of Scarborough in terms of the next riding is Beaches East York. So we're in a very diverse location with homes that go from $1 million or more to social housing. We have co-ops, we have shelters, youth shelters. To be more specific, we have one of the highest child poverty in the riding. We have a very huge amount of need for social housing. There's a lot of things that I deal with, and over the past 2 years, this is my first term as MPP. Over the past 2 years, I have had the honor of representing the incredible people of Scarborough-Southwest. It's also very diverse in the sense that people from so many different parts of the world have come here to live. So as a Bangladeshi Canadian, I'm proud to represent a lot of Bangladeshis who live in Scarborough-Southwest, as well as a very strong South Asian community. So we have a very strong Pakistani community, very strong Tamil community, very strong Filipino community, as well as Black community. And those are some of the big ones that I'm pointing out because I've had the chance to work with these groups of people in Scarborough-Southwest. And I put on a lot of hats in terms of the work that I do in the legislature. So as the deputy whip for our official opposition caucus, I get to be sort of the class captain of our MPPs, which is very interesting because sometimes when you have veteran senior MPPs, it was a lot of a learning experience for me to figure out how to sort of whip in that position, if I may say. So there has been a lot of interesting experiences that I can bring in, and I can go on about that. but I don't want to take too long, really nagging on those points. And as a critic for early learning and childcare, I'm sure you guys are seeing all the different questions and anxiety and pressure that a lot of parents are feeling in terms of the work, people going back to work, but also what's happening with our school reopening, but childcare reopening. So as someone who has the portfolio for childcare, which includes home daycare, etc., a lot of people are worried about what's going to happen when kids go back to school. But right now, a lot of people are concerned, what does it mean when we send our kids to childcare spaces? And our ECEs, are they safe? Are parents safe as they pick up their children? And a lot of those provisions that weren't really thought out. So as an opposition member, I just want to touch a little bit in terms of what it has meant in terms of the work that you guys do, focusing on democracy, focusing on civic engagement, because as I understand it, that's what the session is about today, the webinar is about today. As an opposition member, sometimes I have to first, give out the caveat or the disclaimer, which is there are a lot of days where you feel like it has been 14 hours long and you accomplished very little. Because with the majority government, especially with the Doug Ford government, we have a lot of legislations being rammed through, a lot of people really struggling, and the gap between rich and poor, and it's really increasing. And so we're always consistently fighting for a lot of people who are just sort of on the edge right now. And that's sometimes it becomes a little bit frustrating. Sometimes it's heartbreaking to see what people deal with, whether it's kids who don't have breakfast to eat, and COVID-19 had really pointed out some of those problems. One of the first things I still remember, and I've talked about this in the past as well, which was when schools were closing in the Oak Ridge region where I actually live. One of the nutritionists that I talked to said to me, I'm not really concerned about COVID as much as I'm worried what the kids are going to do when they're stuck at home. And I thought, what do you mean? Tell me a little bit more, because I was confused as to what was she talking about. And we've worked with her in the previous months in terms of keeping up with the I don't know if you remember Power Snack. That's sort of the program they have. They have a morning breakfast program. And she said, it's because a lot of these kids come to school and they have their breakfast. That's sort of the main meal of the day, and they probably have a nice dinner at the end, maybe, hopefully. And that's just heartbreaking. We're talking about Toronto, we're talking about Canada, we're talking about one of the best countries we live in. And I was reading the comments, and I'm so grateful as well as an immigrant woman, a Muslim woman. It's I feel grateful every single day to be living here, to have the opportunity to run for office, to be able to sit in the legislature and represent people, who need a voice, who need to be heard. And I think I couldn't have done it if it wasn't for the community, if it wasn't for my parents, and if it wasn't for this land. And sometimes I think we have to make sure that as grateful as we are, we fight really hard for the people who have sacrificed so much. We fight hard for the people whose land this belongs to. We fight hard for the people who are still struggling and have given so much. And that's a significant, that's a big challenge right now, but it's also a pillar of democracy in the sense that we have to make sure that representation matters, and it matters in the sense of who is representing us, who is being our voice. And one of the things I said before I remember when I was thinking of running was, even if I don't get the nomination, or even if I don't win this election, I hope that we can create a path where many young men and women, especially young people of color, can feel that they can run for office as well, that they can strengthen what democracy means. And we can have a thin definition of democracy, or we can have a very thick definition of democracy. And I remember the first time I was reading Robert Dahl's definition and thinking, wow, that's a really wide range of understanding of what democracy really looks like. But we have a really problematic system right now that we're dealing with, where people are feeling like they're falling off. They're falling through the cracks, and whether it's discrimination, whether it's poverty, whether it's lack of opportunities, there's a lot of work to be done. And I'm really proud of the work that you guys are doing, especially making sure that you're engaged. The town hall series sounds amazing. You're bringing the people who are doing the work to the young people, to the students, so that they can ask the questions. And sometimes, you know what, the funniest things I can tell, actually, if you watch question periods sometimes, there are times I have had conversations with the ministers, whether it was health minister or education minister, where we have asked questions and I felt that they had no idea, or they didn't even think about that problem. So until you ask the right questions, these people won't even look at that as a problem. And to me, it's people who have never been to a public school, now leading the ministry of public education, that's scary. And so that's why what you guys are doing, bringing the the questions to the politician, making sure that you're holding them accountable, and making sure that people are informed about what to do, how to stay safe, it's remarkable. So I've spoken a lot. Apparently it's something that politicians do, and as I get older, I hope I don't continue. It doesn't increase, it doesn't get worse. But I've already started that. So I want to end here and say thank you so much. Happy to answer any questions. I'll leave my contact information on the comment section as well. We have a great thing called the Provincial Youth Cabinet, and Lulu's part of it. And it's a really great group of people with some good work that we do. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we weren't able to continue with the same mandate. But basically what we do is we divide you into different ministries where you have a portfolio yourself, and you come up with a policy recommendation that I take to Parliament. And it's my way of making sure that young people become more engaged and more prepared, so that you can shape policy, you can run for office, and you can be the one making positive change. So thank you so much. Best of luck to all of you, and stay in touch. If there's anything that I can do, I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. I think Doly covered a lot of the things I was going to say for our workshop introduction. But personally, again, it also, as Doly said, we don't see a lot of people of color running for office or getting civically engaged. And I personally grew up with not as much representation as I'd like. I was really scared to go into this field because there was so much uncertainty, because I didn't see people like myself, which also led to a lot of us here in this room being more passionate about civic engagement. And I believe that all of us in this room actually believe that youth are not civically engaged, but no, let me repeat myself, that youth are extremely civically engaged, but we're retreating from political participation because those are traditional methods that we don't really agree with, right? We don't want to, some of us don't want to vote, and that's totally understandable. The processes aren't just meant for youth, but that doesn't mean we can't change that. So we're actually seeing a shift in political engagement. So we're not apathetic to the issues, but we engage differently. So right now, in this time, many of us are on the streets protesting, we're signing petitions, we're writing to counselors, we're creating social media movements. All of you here today are part of a workshop. You guys are getting educated. You are here for this movement. And again, many of you have been engaged for quite some time. Others are recently joining. But we hope today that this workshop prepares you a little bit more so you can continue this journey of being civically engaged. And also understanding that there's a lot of intersectionalities when it comes to civic engagement. So now we're gonna have our facilitators discuss what they talked about in their workshop, or their portion of the workshop. So we're gonna have our activism burnout group go first.
Okay, so we basically talked about what activism burnout was. It's basically when activists feel emotionally and mentally drained, and because activism is very emotionally demanding, and they drop out of their communities. And then we also talked about what are the three main causes of activism burnout, which is internal, external, and in-movement causes. Which And then we also talked about two different coping methods, which is individual coping and organizational coping. Individual coping is basically taking time out for yourself and focusing on your mental and physical well-being, whereas organizational coping is creating an environment for discussing like issues of why burnout is occurring and stuff like that.
And I think one of the key takeaways we took from the discussion is that activism burnout is real and valid and has a very great effect on how movements progress, and it needs to be addressed by movements and by people themselves. So that's why we talk about the different levels of coping with activism burnout. I think that's all. Or she on mute.
Sorry. So have we covered everything for activism burnout, or like the gist of it? Yeah?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, perfect. So we can continue. So Zubair and Zach.
Yeah, so in talking about community engagement, we kind of just wanted to highlight what civic engagement was. And essentially what it is people working together or on their own in their communities to help make a difference and affect change. And through that, they develop skills that enable them to do so. And then we also touched on why people tend to not be engaged in their communities. And we chalked that up to basically, essentially education. People didn't feel like they had the right knowledge or the right skills to be able to speak out on specific things or affect change in their community. Zach, did you want to touch on the ways that people can get civically engaged?
Yeah, so I think a key takeaway from that is that given COVID-19, a lot of, I guess, ways that people can be engaged have changed, being more online. However, there are still a lot of resources available at our disposal. We also chat about how our public representatives are there. They have platforms in which we can voice our opinions through. And we also spoke about how, supporting local businesses and again, volunteering within our community, that opens a lot of doors, and that's a key part of being involved civically.
For sure. And then Sarah actually asked a good question in our breakout session. She asked, how can we engage the UTSC community more politically, especially since everything is now online? And that's kind of where we as PSSA do come in. I feel like we can educate students on things that are just to enable them to be more politically aware of things that are happening. Because as we saw with like the last election, there was a really high spike in youth voters. So people our age voting, and that's because they felt like it directly affected them for like the first time, right? So through awareness of specific issues and how it affects us as youth every day, we can kind of get the entire UTSC community engaged, right? Because we saw how many people were like rushing between classes to go vote on campus, right? And that's because they felt connected to it. So I feel like if we can educate people and we can show them that it's connected to their everyday life, then we can definitely enhance political engagement within our community.
Thank you. That was a really great answer. Is our community engagement group okay? Yeah. So we have Dilraj and Gavin.
Basically, we went over Paul B50 in about 20 minutes instead of a year. And the reason why is because it's important, especially if you want to get your voice across or you have an issue that you want to bring up, you have to know who to bring it up with. The diversity and jurisdiction we have in the Canadian system is very complicated at times, and you have to know which level of government is responsible for which ministry or which issue. Healthcare and education fall under provincial, whereas again something like national security or the RCMP fall under federal, and then we have municipal bylaws that govern others. So it was important to differentiate between the three levels, and also understand what some best practices were when it comes to engaging with not only the politicians, but the staff and key figures in the political network, and yeah, how to effectively get your message across.